Hello, good afternoon. This is I'm in the middle of a few back-to-backers here of some crossover minutes that I'm actually doing a better job of keeping shorter overall here. But I just have a handful of different thoughts and things and experiences that I feel so strongly and compelled to share and to just put out there to see if these are things that either resonate with you or might encourage you or might help you in your circumstances or help you to understand or to give some 2020 hindsight to some things from the past or to encourage or inspire you or make you feel like, hey, I'm not alone or I'm not crazy, what I'm going through or what I'm dealing with here. There's someone else that understands and experiences these things or, you know. So right now, I remember when I was younger, hearing different sayings and not understanding a thing about them, but just maybe decades later, from being a kid, understanding, like a stitch in time saves nine, or this and that, things like that. I'm like, I had no clue what that referred to. And But here's one I remember hearing a few times here and there: "All is fair in love and war." And I was like, what in the world does that have to do with that? And what does love and war have to do with each other? And unless when you love someone, you go to war. I just didn't get it. I had no clue, and then just one day out of the blue, it just hits me, and then probably hearing something and hearing that phrase in context or whatever. And then I'm like, oh, wait a second. I see. So it means that kind of there's more rules that can be bent or boundaries that can be crossed when it comes to, you know, love, ultimately, super deep love like companionship and marriage and all that, as well as war. When you're fighting a war, you don't stay within just very narrow conventional lines, or, I got what it meant. And I'm like, okay, I do understand that when it comes to intimate relationships, meaningful companionship, marriage, and all that, that there are different parameters, there's differences and there's some things that are just flat out different than any other type of relationship that exists at all, just specific to that, that you won't and can't find in any other context. But I don't like the phrase that all is fair, because all is not necessarily fair, I don't think. Um, for example, I don't think it's fair that I don't know, that you are allowed to, or if we are allowed to, at least society may say that you're allowed to, um, ghost. I can't stand that phrase, but I'll just say it because it's a common phrase these days and it's a buzzword. Everybody knows it. Most people know it now. Ghost people, um, or just disre- disregard people in a moment's notice, um, or if there has been um, some form of brokenness in a relationship, that if the other person did wrong, that you can just drop them without still taking responsibility for your part. And I guess the ultimate thing is that we shouldn't be looking at the context to decide what we can or cannot do, as much as looking at Christ first and then applying him to every context and seeing what are our options within the realm of his character and his way. And I think that's fair. Whatever is within those bounds. In other words, it's not like an ocean of, oh, we're in this ocean of relationships or companionship. Okay, well then we can do all that. We can do anything. I believe there's a river of God that has clearer banks and that has much more forward movement. That we stay within those bounds, and we can maneuver in and out of those waters, in and through those waters, without coming out of the bounds. And that's our latitude of freedom, which is vast enough. Rivers can be mighty like the Mississippi or the Nile. They don't have to be narrow, tight streams, even though there may be certain places along that journey where it tightens and narrows from the world, from the world's ways and terrain. But I just want to give just a thought that no matter what circumstance we go through, no matter the context, whether it be in relationships and other things, that we still have an accountability to God as to our conduct. There's no release from our accountability to conduct, to the words that we choose to use, to the way that we go after someone or something, to whether or not we attack or come lose our control. And now I'm not saying that we don't get very angry, but there is a way to be very angry and still not sin. So it's not about not being angry or not having feelings or denying our feelings or trying to suppress them. It's about processing them with God and more healthfully and expressing them in healthy ways and getting out and away from unhealthy people and situations until we're in a good enough state to actually address those things without losing our way. And so, and I say this, I'm not saying this like I've never experienced it or like it's easy, because I've very much been in the throes of this multiple times, and I know it's difficult. I know how hard it is to slam on the brakes and to get off the freeway and get in a place at a rest stop and collect oneself and come to places of surrender and submission to God's grace so that I can handle things in a way that it needs to be handled. So, all is not necessarily fair or permissible in love and war. As a matter of fact, on one level, I would say that in special companionship relationships, that maybe some things have a higher accountability because of the nature of the intimacy or the connection or just the nature of the terrain, the territory of a loving relationship that's deep in companionship or marriage. That there's some extra accountability and sensitivity to the way we handle that, especially if it is a marriage, because you are bonded and connected to that person intimately and very particularly in a way that you cannot be with anyone else. And so, and an accountability to that person, and not just to the other person, but to the whole, to the union that you're accountable for, your role and accountability to that. And so, and whether something is torn or broken or completely severed, and it's going to lead into a permanent divorce or not or whatever, we still have a role in the way we conduct ourselves with respect to that, including that process, if it is an actual divorce process, or just and how we are with that other person, no matter how they are or aren't towards us and towards God. And again, this is very sensitive ground because I've experienced almost the whole variety and spectrum of how one could be treated, um, and so I know I'm not talking about things that are easy and things that are easier said than done. I understand, but at least I just want to bring some inspiration and some encouragement that could, by God's grace, be strength for your spirit and strength in your soul and healing and refreshing for your soul and strength in your spirit that can really enable you by the power of God beyond just your own willpower to enable you to conduct yourself in a Christ-like manner in a place coming from a place of grace and not succumbing to opportunities with that person or circumstances to getting outside the character that you want to walk in and want to be and conduct yourself in. And so that the strength of God is really operating in your spirit and flooding and rising up within your soul and keeping you filled with his grace and peace and backfilling it whenever it keeps trying to be stealed by these circumstances. And so, bless you in the name of Jesus. May you find those places of grace and strength and rest. And may this all be tied into a dignifying of your heart and a healthy accountability to any part that you're responsible for as well, and myself, whatever role, big or small, that we did play in the negativity or the wrongdoing or whatever. We have to just be openly honest, but also respecting and dignifying what you went through in the process and then trusting God with it, so that we don't lose ourselves in it and have to go back through that part of the process of getting ourselves back together in that area of our heart as well. We're already dealing with other areas of the heart that are being, damaged or impeded. We don't want to open up a whole nother thing in and of itself along with it. There's enough to deal with, right? Right? You know? So let's see what we can do to find that deeper pocket of just surrender in the secret place of the Most High, where there's healing, there's shelter, there's protection, there's safety. In the name of Jesus. Amen. Until next time.